Pay attention to the man in the white and gray hoodie. He steps off the train at MacArthur Station, pulling down his hood and removing his sunglasses. He glances around the busy platform, then reaches down to his pant leg, pulling something out and quickly concealing it beneath his sweatshirt. No one in the crowded Bay Area Rapid Transit station notices. 22 minutes earlier, 18-year-old Nia Wilson boarded this same train with her two sisters, laughing about their aunt's celebration of life party. She has less than half an hour left to live, because this stranger, 27-year-old John Lee Cowell, a convicted felon with a history of violence, has been following them for multiple stops, watching, waiting, planning. On this summer evening in July 2018, Nia dreams of getting home safely to Oakland. On this same evening, Cowell intends to commit an act of pure evil that will shock an entire community. Nia Wilson was sunshine personified. At 18 years old, she carried an infectious smile that could light up any room she entered. Her father remembers her as his baby girl, always putting others before herself, always fighting for what was right. The name Nia comes from the Swahili word meaning purpose, and she lived up to that meaning every single day of her short life. She had big dreams for her future. Nia loved music and dancing with a passion that consumed her free time. She envisioned opening her own dance studio one day, a place where she could share her love of movement with young people in her community. But her ambitions didn't stop there. She also considered becoming an EMT or paramedic, drawn to the idea of helping people in their most desperate moments. Some days she talked about working in criminal justice, fighting for equality and fairness in a system she knew needed voices like hers. Nia was incredibly close with her family, especially her sisters Tashia and Latifa. The three of them were inseparable, sharing everything from clothes to secrets to dreams about their futures. They spent this particular Sunday evening, July 22, 2018, doing what families do, coming together to celebrate life even in the face of loss. Their Aunt Teresa had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and the family wanted to honor her while she could still enjoy their company. It was supposed to be a beautiful day of love and connection, and it was until the train ride home. Around 9 o'clock that evening, the three sisters arrived at MacArthur BART station, ready to head back to Oakland. They were tired but happy, still talking and laughing about the celebration. None of them noticed the man watching them from the moment they stepped onto the escalator leading to the platform. None of them realized that their normal evening commute was about to become a nightmare, captured on surveillance cameras that would eventually help bring a killer to justice. On paper, John Lee Cowell was a troubled man with a violent past. At 27 years old, he had already been convicted of assault with a deadly weapon and armed robbery. He was a felon on parole, someone the system was supposedly monitoring. But beneath that known criminal history lurked something far more dangerous, something that would reveal itself in the most horrific way possible on this July evening. Security footage would later show Cowell had no prior connection to the Wilson family. He didn't know Nia, didn't know her sisters, had never encountered them before that night. What made him fixate on these three young black women the moment he saw them remains a question that haunts investigators and the family to this day. Was it their laughter, their closeness? Or was it simply the color of their skin? For 17 minutes, the sisters waited on the platform for their train, completely unaware that death was studying them from behind dark sunglasses. Cowell watched their every move, planning his attack with chilling calculation. When the train finally arrived and the sisters walked toward the doors, he pulled on his hoodie, grabbed his backpack, and followed them inside. The train ride that followed was deceptively normal. Nia, Latifa, and Tashia sat together, probably on their phones, maybe still talking about the party. Other passengers came and went at various stops. The train rattled along its route through the Bay Area, carrying dozens of people who had no idea that a predator sat among them. Cowell positioned himself near the sisters, close enough to watch but not so close as to draw attention. Behind his sunglasses, his eyes never left them. For multiple stops, he remained perfectly still, perfectly patient. He was waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, and that moment would come at MacArthur Station around 9:35 p.m. The sisters called their father as they prepared to transfer trains, letting him know they'd be home soon. It was a routine call, the kind parents and children make every day without thinking twice. How could any of them know it would be among the last words Nia would ever speak to him? When the train doors opened at MacArthur Station, Tashia stepped onto the next train first. Then something happened that would haunt Latifa for the rest of her life. A woman with a baby in a stroller began backing out through the train doors, and Nia and Latifa politely waited on the platform. The baby looked at Nia, and she smiled that beautiful smile, saying hi to the innocent child. It was such a small moment of pure kindness, so perfectly Nia. Then came a sound Latifa describes as impossible to forget. Nia suddenly lurched forward. Before Latifa could even process what was happening, she felt a violent impact herself. Nia screamed her sister's name. Blood appeared. Tashia, already on the train, watched in horror through the closing and then reopening doors as her sisters were brutally attacked right in front of her eyes. The assault lasted mere seconds, Cowell had struck with devastating speed and violence, stabbing Nia twice in the neck and attacking Latifah as well. Then he fled, disappearing into the crowd before most witnesses even understood what had happened. Behind him, he left a scene of unimaginable tragedy. The woman with the stroller immediately threw her baby's blanket over Nia's neck. Latifah pressed it against her sister's wounds, desperately trying to stop the bleeding, not even realizing she'd been stabbed too. She kept telling Nia they'd get through this, that she had her, that everything would be okay. But even as she spoke those words, even as she applied pressure and begged her sister to hold on, Nia was slipping away. "I love you," Latifah told her baby sister in those final moments. "I got you, baby. I got you. You're my baby sister." In less than 3 minutes from the first stab wound, Nia Wilson was gone. The call came at approximately 9:45 p.m. Nia and Latifah's father Ansar answered his phone to hear his daughter Tashia's frantic, incomprehensible screaming. All he could make out was the word BART. His mind immediately went to possibilities. Maybe a fight, maybe some trouble with another passenger, maybe they'd been robbed. Never, not in his worst nightmares, did he imagine what he was about to find. He rushed to his car and drove to MacArthur Station as fast as he could. When he arrived, the scene that greeted him was every parent's worst fear made real. Ambulances, police cars, officers everywhere. He saw medics loading Latifah into an ambulance, blood dripping down her arm. When he asked her what happened, she could only tell him to check on Nia. He ran up the stairs to the platform. And there, surrounded by police and investigators, he saw his daughter's body. His baby girl, dead on a train platform, for no reason he could understand. "It's the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life," he would later say, his voice breaking. "Seeing my baby dead, it's impossible." The heartbreaking task of calling Nia's mother Alicia fell to him. She was in Sacramento, about 90 miles away. The drive to Oakland felt endless. She kept waiting for another call, telling her it was all a mistake, that Nia was okay. That call never came. While Nia's family struggled to process the unthinkable, Latifah fought for her life at Highland Hospital. Investigators began piecing together what happened through witness statements and, crucially, through security camera footage. The BART system's extensive surveillance network had captured nearly everything: the sisters boarding at Concord, Cowell following them, the attack itself, and his escape. That escape footage proved invaluable. Cameras tracked Cowell as he fled the platform, running past a police officer whose body camera recorded him pointing back toward the station, claiming someone had been attacked. The audacity was staggering. He literally directed police toward his own crime scene to aid his escape. Then more cameras showed him at a bus stop, boarding a bus, and finally disappearing from view. But investigators reviewing the footage caught the crucial mistake he made. Before reaching the bus stop, Cowell had entered a nearby parking structure and left his backpack behind. Within hours of the attack, police recovered that bag. Inside were several personal items that gave them what they needed most: a name. John Lee Cowell. A background check revealed his violent criminal history. As a convicted felon on parole, he should have been easy to track down. But in the immediate aftermath, he seemed to have vanished. Nearly 12 hours passed before police released his photo and information to the public, a delay that frustrated the family and community. They worried this man would disappear forever, that justice would never come for Nia. News of Nia's murder spread through Oakland like wildfire. Her family mobilized everyone they knew to search for Cowell. Brothers, sisters, cousins, friends, everyone hit the streets looking for the man whose face now appeared on every news station and social media feed. The case quickly became more than just a local tragedy. Posts about Nia spread across social media platforms with the hashtag #SayHerName, a campaign originally created to bring awareness to Black women and girls who were victims of police brutality. As the movement grew, it expanded to honor victims of anti-Black violence of all kinds. Nia's story resonated because it represented every parent's fear that their child could be targeted and killed for simply existing while Black. The community response was overwhelming. Around 1,000 people gathered at MacArthur Station for a vigil in Nia's honor. They demanded justice. They shared her story. They made sure the world knew her name and wouldn't forget what happened to her. The vigil was still ongoing when police received an anonymous call that would change everything. Someone on a BART train recognized John Cowell. He was on a train heading directly toward MacArthur Station, toward the vigil, toward the scene of his crime. Police didn't know if he intended to attack again or if it was coincidence, but they weren't taking chances. Officers rushed to MacArthur to intercept the train. When the doors opened, they searched frantically. Cowell wasn't there. For a moment, it seemed like another dead end. But at Pleasant Hill Station, approximately 23 minutes away, other officers searched the same train. This time, they found him standing right in the doorway, making no attempt to hide or flee. "How you doing today?" an officer asked. "Good," Cowell responded calmly. "What's your name, sir?" "John Cowell." Less than 24 hours after murdering Nia Wilson and attempting to murder Latifah, the manhunt was over. He was arrested without incident, seemingly cooperative, as if he'd simply been waiting to be caught. The case against John Lee Cowell seemed straightforward. Surveillance footage captured everything. Witness testimony was consistent, physical evidence was overwhelming. But Cowell had one card left to play: insanity. In February of 2020, his trial began. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, claiming a history of mental illness prevented him from understanding his actions. When he testified, he spun an absurd tale about believing the Wilson sisters were aliens who had kidnapped his grandmother. It was by all accounts a performance designed to avoid accountability. He just made a mockery out of it, family members would later say. The things he was talking about up there because he wanted to play crazy. District Attorney Butch Ford wasn't buying it. When he attempted to play surveillance video demonstrating Cowell's calculated planning and execution of the attack, Cowell erupted. He screamed, cursed at Ford, and disrupted the court despite repeated warnings from the judge. Eventually, he was removed from the courtroom entirely. But Ford had done his homework. He'd reviewed recorded phone calls Cowell made while in custody. In those calls, Cowell discussed his mental health treatment with remarkable clarity. More damning, he explicitly stated he needed to stop taking his medication so he could appear more crazy when the trial started. "I think it was an absolute show," Ford concluded. The prosecution considered charging Cowell with a hate crime. The evidence seemed clear. There were many women and other people on the BART platform that night. He ignored all of them. The moment he saw 3 young black women, he fixated on them. Every angle of surveillance footage confirmed this. Additionally, while in custody, he'd sought out an African-American deputy and subjected her to racial slurs. "There's no doubt in my mind that the assault was racially motivated," Ford stated. "You killed her because of her skin. You didn't kill her for anything else." However, proving a hate crime charge would be extremely difficult. Instead, Ford recommended pursuing premeditated murder with the special circumstance of lying in wait. The footage showed Cowell watching, following, waiting for 17 minutes before executing his attack. This strategic choice meant life in prison without parole if convicted. The judge ultimately ruled that Cowell was sane at the time of the attack. His performance in court had actually worked against him, demonstrating his ability to control his actions when it suited him. The jury found him guilty of murdering Nia Wilson, attempting to murder Latifah Wilson, and the special circumstance of lying in wait. John Lee Cowell was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will die behind bars. For Nia's family, the guilty verdict brought a measure of justice, but no real peace. How could there be peace when their sunshine was gone forever? Ansar, Nia's father, suffered a stroke from the trauma. To this day, he has limited use of his right side and doesn't speak as clearly as he once did. The physical damage mirrors the emotional devastation that will never fully heal. His therapy dog, a husky he describes as very spoiled, keeps him moving forward on the darkest days. Tashia and Latifah struggle with survivor's guilt. Why did they live when Nia died? Therapy, meditation, and the support of loved ones help them cope, but some wounds never truly close. They know Nia would want them to be happy, to live full lives, to carry on her mission of spreading kindness and fighting for justice. "A sister's love can never be defined," Latifah says. Alicia, Nia's mother, finds strength in memory and purpose. "When I think of Nia, I think of sunshine," she says. "Big, bright, beautiful smile. That was my baby." The community hasn't forgotten Nia either. Her story continues to resonate, sparking conversations about safety, about racism, about violence against Black women. NBA star Steph Curry hosted a high school basketball showcase dedicated to Nia's memory, raising over $20,000 for her family. Her school held a graduation ceremony where she was posthumously awarded her diploma, an achievement she and her father had discussed many times. "I'm very proud," Ansar said at the ceremony. "This is an achievement that me and my daughter sat down and spoke of several times. And it's so heartbreaking that she's not here to experience this for herself." In 2019, Nia's family created the Nia Wilson Foundation, dedicated to providing resources that Nia herself would have championed. The foundation offers mental health counseling, homeless outreach, self-defense classes, and employment opportunities for young men and women. It's a fitting tribute to a young woman who always put others first, who dreamed of helping people in whatever way she could. Before her death, Nia had expressed fears about being targeted because of her race. She told her family that if something ever happened to her, she wanted them to keep fighting, to hold her attacker accountable, to make sure her story mattered. In the face of their worst nightmare coming true, her family has honored that request. "I always say, Nia, you make me a better person," says one family member. "I carry my daughter's name with a heavy weight, so whatever I do, I think about her." They think about her every single day. They think about her when they attend foundation events. They think about her when they advocate for justice reform. They think about her when they see young people achieving their dreams Nia will never get to fulfill. "I think Nia wants to be remembered how she loved people, how she cared for people, her passion for people, and rights for everybody," says Latifah. The family knows the road ahead remains difficult. Some days are harder than others. Some moments the grief feels as fresh as it did that terrible night in July 2018. But they also know they'll make it through because they have to, because Nia would want them to, because her purpose lives on through them. "Me and my daughters and the rest of us will see this through," Ansar says with determination. We will make it, even though it's very hard, and it's something that we think about for the rest of our lives. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Nia Wilson was only 18 years old when her life was stolen from her on a crowded train platform. She deserved to graduate, to open her dance studio, to help people as an EMT or work in criminal justice, to live a long and purposeful life surrounded by people who loved her. Instead, she became another name, another hashtag, another reminder that we have so much work left to do. But she also became something else, a symbol of community, of justice, of the power of speaking someone's name and refusing to let their story be forgotten. In that sense, Nia's purpose continues. Her light still shines through the foundation that bears her name, through her sisters who carry on, through every person who hears her story and commits to building a world where tragedies like this happen less and less. Say her name, Nia Wilson. Remember her not for how she died, but for how she lived, with purpose, with passion, with a smile that could light up any room, and with dreams that should have come true.